You might feel like you're falling behind, like no matter how hard you try, life keeps pushing you back. But what if I told you you're already winning, even if you haven't seen it yet? Here's the truth. Winning isn't always loud. It's not just about trophies, promotions, or applause. Sometimes, winning looks like getting out of bed when you wanted to stay down. It's choosing to keep going when quitting seemed easier. It's the quiet strength that keeps you standing, even when no one's watching. The ancient Stoics understood this well. They knew that victory isn't measured in sudden breakthroughs, but in resilience, patience, and unseen progress. Every breath you take, every challenge you face, every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that you're succeeding. Because real victory lies in the courage to keep moving. In this video, I'll show you how to recognize that quiet victory. I'll reveal why your struggles are shaping you, how your mistakes are fueling your growth, and why patience is the ultimate power. By the end, you'll see that you've been winning all along, and you'll know exactly how to keep it going. So stay with me, because the best part is just getting started. One, age is a lie. You can change at any time. It's easy to believe that your best days are behind you, that you're too old to start over, too late to improve, and too far gone to change. But that's a lie, a dangerous one that keeps far too many people trapped in regret. The truth? Age has nothing to do with your potential. The only thing that holds you back is your belief that it's already too late. There's a man I once knew, let's call him James. At 52, James had convinced himself that his life was set in stone. Years working the same job, following the same routine, and accepting that his dreams had expired long ago. He told himself that change was for younger people, that his time had passed. But life has a way of breaking our illusions. When his company downsized, James was one of the first to go. Suddenly, his comfort zone vanished. The career he once relied on was gone, and for the first time in years, he had no choice but to confront a painful truth. He had let fear of age hold him back for far too long. For weeks, James spiraled. He convinced himself he was too old to learn new skills, too slow to adapt, and too worn out to build something better. But one evening, sitting alone in his living room, James remembered something his father once told him. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying. Those words struck him harder than ever before. Because deep down, James knew he hadn't stopped learning because of his age. He had stopped because of fear. And that's what the Stoics understood so well, that growth isn't tied to youth. The mind is timeless. The will is ageless. Your ability to change doesn't shrink with time. It expands as you gain experience, wisdom, and resilience. Cato the Elder knew this well. In his old age, when most would have resigned to routine, he began studying Greek, a language considered difficult even for younger minds. People called him foolish. They said he was wasting his time. But Cato knew better. He believed that learning, growth, and self-improvement belonged to anyone willing to embrace it, no matter their age. Then there's Colonel Sanders, a man who refused to surrender to time. After struggling for most of his life, he was already in his 60s when he finally built his fried chicken empire. Most would have told him to quit, that starting over at that age was madness. But Colonel Sanders didn't let the number on his birth certificate decide what was possible. Instead, he focused on one thing: action. Because he knew what the Stoics knew, that success isn't about when you start, it's about whether you're willing to start at all. If you're still breathing, you're still capable of change. No matter how old you are or how much time you feel you've lost, you can still decide today to begin again. Age doesn't limit your potential. Fear does, but fear only wins if you let it. The Stoics believed that the most powerful weapon against fear was motion, taking that first step, no matter how uncertain. It's not about overhauling your entire life in a day. It's about small, deliberate steps that push you forward, one action at a time. James knew this. After weeks of self-doubt, he decided to start small. He picked up a book, a beginner's guide to digital marketing, something he knew nothing about. Each night, he read a few pages. Slowly, that small effort became a habit. Weeks turned into months, and James kept going, learning, practicing, and improving. By the time a friend introduced him to an opportunity at a local startup, James had already equipped himself with enough knowledge to step into a new role, one that paid better and brought more fulfillment than his previous career ever had. James wasn't too old, he wasn't too late, he was simply waiting too long to believe in himself. That's what the Stoics understood, that transformation is always possible, no matter your age, because your mind doesn't grow old unless you allow it to. Every day is a fresh canvas, a chance to reshape your path, redefine your story, and rewrite your future. Even if you've made mistakes, even if you've failed before, even if time feels like it's slipping away, you still have the power to move forward. Think of your life as a painting. Some brushstrokes may seem messy, others may feel like mistakes, but the masterpiece is never finished until you decide to stop painting. As long as you keep going, blending colors, reshaping lines, adding new layers, your life continues to evolve. Don't let the calendar dictate your potential. Don't let regret convince you that you've missed your chance. The truth is, you haven't. Your story isn't over. Not yet. 2. Progress is invisible. Trust the process. Winning doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it feels like you're stuck, grinding away without results. But here's what most people don't realize. Progress is often invisible. You might think nothing's changing, but beneath the surface, everything is shifting. Growth doesn't always scream for attention, it whispers. And if you're not careful, you might mistake progress for failure. That's why so many people give up too soon. They assume that if they don't see instant results, they're failing. But that's a trap, and the Stoics knew it well. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He believed that progress isn't defined by how fast you move, but by your ability to keep moving, no matter how slow. To him, success wasn't about sudden breakthroughs, but the quiet strength of persistence. Imagine planting a seed. You water it every day, but nothing seems to happen. Days pass, weeks pass, still nothing. It's tempting to think that your effort is wasted, that the seed is dead. But beneath the soil, roots are spreading, anchoring themselves deeper and stronger. Growth is happening. You just can't see it yet. That's how progress works. The results aren't always immediate, but they're always building. The Stoics believed that the most dangerous mistake you can make is to quit before your efforts have time to bear fruit. Patience is power. The ability to stay committed, even when nothing seems to be working, is what separates those who succeed from those who stop just short of victory. The truth is, what feels like failure is often preparation. Every time you show up, you're laying another brick in the foundation. Each effort, no matter how small, strengthens your resilience, sharpens your discipline, and prepares you for what's ahead. Epictetus taught that success isn't about control, it's about endurance. He knew that we don't always get to decide the pace of progress, but we always control whether we keep going. And that's what matters most. When you're building something meaningful, whether it's a skill, a career, or a better version of yourself, you won't always see the results right away. Growth works like a slow burn. It builds in silence, shaping you in ways you can't yet see. That's why the Stoics trained themselves to embrace uncertainty. They knew that life rarely unfolds on a predictable timeline. The key isn't to demand immediate results. It's to trust that your efforts are planting seeds that will bloom when the time is right. Progress demands trust. Trust in the process, trust in your efforts, and trust in yourself. It's easy to stay motivated when results are clear. But real strength comes from showing up when nothing seems to be working, and believing that it still matters. Most people lose faith in themselves because they focus too much on what they can't see. They measure success only by outcomes, not by effort. But the Stoics knew better. They measured success by consistency, by the quiet courage of showing up day after day, even when no one else is watching. That's why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that progress isn't about applause or recognition. It's about doing the right thing, even when it feels unnoticed. Because the truth is, those unnoticed efforts are the ones that shape your character the most. When you feel stuck, when it seems like nothing is changing, remind yourself that movement is still happening. Every step forward, no matter how small, carries momentum. Even when you're tired, even when you're uncertain, even when you're doubting yourself. A river doesn't carve a canyon in a single day. It happens over years of relentless flow, cutting deeper with every drop of water. Progress works the same way. Every effort, every attempt, every struggle, they all matter. Don't fall into the trap of believing that progress only counts if it's obvious. The most powerful changes are often the ones you can't see right away. So if you're tired, if you're frustrated, if you're wondering whether your effort is even worth it, keep going. Because progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's slow. But it's always happening. Trust the process. Because you're winning right now, whether you can see it or not. 3. Winning is movement. Keep moving. Stagnation feels safe. When life overwhelms you, staying still seems like the easiest choice. No risk, no pressure, no chance of failure. But there's a problem. Stillness isn't peace. It's a slow descent into frustration, doubt, and regret. The longer you remain stuck, the heavier your mind becomes. Fear starts whispering, convincing you that movement is pointless. You question your choices, your abilities, and even your worth. But here's what the Stoics knew. Motion is life. The moment you stop moving, you start losing. The moment you refuse to act, you surrender control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." He understood that obstacles aren't signals to stop, they're invitations to move. Life itself is motion. From the breath in your lungs to the earth beneath your feet, everything is in constant flow. And the key to progress is simple. You must keep moving. Most people imagine progress as a straight line, one steady climb upward. But that's not how growth works. Real progress looks chaotic, like a scribbled mess of setbacks, detours, and struggles. Some days you'll move fast, other days it'll feel like you're crawling. But what matters isn't your speed, it's that you refuse to stand still. The river knows this. It never questions if it's flowing fast enough, it simply moves. When faced with a boulder, it doesn't stop. It bends, twists, and reshapes itself until it finds a way forward. The river doesn't resist obstacles, it embraces them, knowing they're part of the journey. That's how progress works. It's messy, it's unpredictable, but as long as you keep moving, you're winning, even if you feel like you're not. The mistake most people make is believing that progress must always feel productive. They think that unless they're making big leaps, their effort is wasted. But some of your greatest progress happens when nothing seems to be changing at all. Imagine a sculptor working on a block of marble. With each strike of the chisel, the stone barely changes. Day after day, the sculptor carves away, yet nothing remarkable happens. But beneath the surface, that relentless motion is shaping something extraordinary. It's not one massive strike that reveals the masterpiece. It's hundreds of quiet, deliberate movements. Life works the same way. Each small step, no matter how insignificant it feels, is carving your path forward. Even when you doubt yourself, even when you feel stuck, even when progress seems invisible, you're still shaping your future. But the key is to keep moving, no matter how slow, no matter how uncertain. Because motion is power, and standing still is surrender. The Stoics believed that the mind, like a muscle, grows stronger through movement. When you force yourself to act, especially when fear tells you to stop, you build mental resilience. You prove to yourself that you're capable of pushing through to discomfort, uncertainty, and doubt. That's why movement is so powerful. Each step forward, no matter how small, rewires your mind for strength. It tells your brain, I refuse to give up. I refuse to stay stuck. I choose progress, even if it's slow. That's what separates those who rise from those who remain trapped. Not talent, not luck, but the simple decision to keep going. The Stoics believed in this deeply. Epictetus taught that our focus should always remain on what we can control, and action is always within your control. You may not control outcomes, timing, or circumstances, but you can always choose to act. And that choice, no matter how small, puts you back in control. When fear tells you to stop, take one small step. When doubt convinces you to wait, move anyway. Even if you can't see the path ahead, trust that every step is shaping something greater. Motion builds momentum. The hardest part is starting, but once you do, each step fuels the next. And before you know it, you're no longer stuck, you're moving forward. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to begin, stop. There's no perfect moment, no ideal timing, just this, right now, and the decision to move. So push yourself forward, Even if you feel unsure, show up even when you're tired. Take that step, no matter how small, because the moment you refuse to quit, you're already winning. 4. Resilience is power. Embrace the struggle. Most people believe that winning is about avoiding hardship, that the strongest are those who face the fewest problems. But the truth is far different. Strength doesn't come from comfort, it's forged in adversity. Real power comes from struggle, from learning to rise every time life knocks you down. There's a story about a man named Eric, a small business owner who poured his heart into his company. For years, he built his business from scratch, working late nights and sacrificing weekends. His hard work paid off, his company grew steadily, and his life seemed secure. Then came the storm, both figuratively and literally. A brutal hurricane tore through his town, leaving his office flooded and his equipment destroyed. The insurance barely covered the damage. In a matter of days, everything he'd spent years building was gone. His savings drained, his business shattered. Eric felt like his entire life had collapsed. At first, the weight was unbearable. He kept asking himself the same question: why me? He felt cheated, as if all his effort had been for nothing. But as weeks passed, something shifted. He realized that his anger, his frustration, they weren't helping him rebuild. They were only feeding his despair. That's when he remembered something his grandfather once told him. You don't grow strong by avoiding storms. You grow strong by learning to walk through them. Eric knew he had two choices: dwell on what he'd lost, or focus on what he could still control. He chose the latter. He reached out to old clients, offering whatever services he could. He borrowed equipment, worked from home, and refused to stop. His progress was slow, exhausting even, but he kept moving. A year later, his business was thriving again, stronger than before. The Stoics believed that hardship isn't the enemy. It's the training ground. Every challenge, every loss, setback, or failure is an opportunity to build resilience. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, betrayals, and even a deadly plague during his reign, yet he remained calm, composed, and steady. He didn't ask for an easier path. He prepared himself to become stronger. That's what real resilience is, not avoiding difficulty, but mastering the ability to endure it. The Stoics knew that suffering isn't optional, but growth is. The key is how you respond. Pain isn't pointless. Struggle isn't meaningless. Every hardship carries a hidden gift, the chance to develop strength, patience, and wisdom. Epictetus, who was born a slave, understood this better than anyone. Despite a life filled with suffering, he refused to see himself as a victim. Instead, he believed that every challenge was an opportunity to sharpen his mind and refine his character. It's easy to believe that life's difficulties are holding you back, that the struggles you face are proof you're losing. But that's a lie. Every hardship you've endured, every heartbreak, failure, and setback has made you stronger than you realize. The mind, like steel, is forged through pressure and fire. Without resistance, it stays weak, brittle, untested, and easily broken. But when you embrace the struggle, when you refuse to back down, you build something unbreakable. You develop a quiet strength that no storm can shake. The Stoics knew that winning isn't about avoiding hardship, it's about learning to carry it. Each time you face adversity without breaking, you expand your capacity for resilience. Each time you refuse to quit, you're teaching your mind that you are stronger than your circumstances. And that strength is what sets you apart. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Each challenge, no matter how painful, is shaping you into someone who can handle more, someone who can rise higher. The storm that nearly broke you, it's the reason you're stronger now. The setback that felt like failure, it's why you're wiser today. The pain that once seemed unbearable, it's the fire that forged you into someone unstoppable. That's the power of resilience, the quiet strength that comes from enduring what others run from. And when you embrace that, when you stop fearing the struggle and start seeing it as your greatest teacher, you unlock something extraordinary. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I gain from this? That's what winning looks like. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain no longer controls you. So when you feel overwhelmed, when the pressure builds and giving up seems easier, remember this. Every challenge you face is sharpening you. every hardship is building something stronger within you. You're not losing, you're learning. You're not breaking, you're becoming unbreakable. And no matter how hard things feel right now, if you refuse to quit, you're already winning. 5. Small steps matter. Celebrate the effort. If you've made it this far, you've already proven something important. You're committed. You've stayed, listened, and kept going. And that alone is a victory. Most people quit before they see results. They tell themselves it's not working and walk away. They don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they underestimate the power of small steps. But you didn't stop, and that says more about your strength than you may realize. The truth is, big wins aren't built overnight. They're built one small effort at a time. A quiet grind that feels invisible until one day, everything changes. That's what the Stoics believed, that progress isn't measured by leaps, but by consistency. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." He understood that success isn't about explosive breakthroughs. It's about persistence. The moments that feel small, those choices you make when no one's watching, they're the foundation of everything. But that's where doubt creeps in. When you push yourself day after day and see no immediate results, it's easy to believe that effort is wasted. It's not. What feels insignificant now is building something stronger than you know. Imagine a tree planted in dry soil. For weeks it seems like nothing's happening. No leaves, no growth, just emptiness. But beneath the surface, the roots are stretching deeper, anchoring themselves firmly into the earth. The foundation is being built, long before anything becomes visible. That's how progress works. The change you're creating isn't always something you can see, but it's happening. Every small decision, every act of discipline, every quiet effort is strengthening you in ways you don't yet realize. And this is where most people fail. Not because they lack ability, but because they stop believing that the small steps matter. They let frustration talk them out of consistency. They convince themselves that if progress isn't obvious, it must not exist. But winning isn't about instant results. It's about persistence. The Stoics knew that patience is power. They believed that the greatest victories come to those who are willing to keep showing up, even when they feel stuck. Think of a sculptor working on a block of stone. Each strike of the chisel seems to do nothing. For weeks, there's barely a change. But the sculptor doesn't stop, because he knows that each strike is weakening the stone, shaping it piece by piece. One strike may not look impressive, but the 100th, the 1000th, that's when the masterpiece begins to emerge. Your progress is no different. Each time you choose focus over distraction, that's a victory. Each time you hold your temper instead of snapping, that's growth. Each time you show up, even when motivation is gone, you're building strength, patience, and resilience. And that's what matters most. Not the size of your steps, but your refusal to stop taking them. Marcus Aurelius believed that success wasn't about feeling inspired every day. It was about discipline. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." It wasn't about chasing massive wins. It was about showing up, even when the work felt dull or meaningless. If you're still pushing, still showing up, you're already winning. Every effort counts, no matter how small. But here's the key. You must learn to celebrate those small steps. Most people only celebrate when they reach the finish line. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that true victory happens along the way. Each time you resist quitting, each time you overcome a moment of doubt, you've already won. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop expecting immediate results. Instead, recognize what you've already accomplished. If you've been fighting to improve, even in small ways, you're ahead of the crowd. Most people give up long before they get to where you are now. Look back. Think about how many days you could have quit but didn't. How many moments you could have stopped but kept going. That's progress. That's strength. And that's what winning really looks like. Don't underestimate what you've already achieved. The fact that you're still here, still trying, still moving forward, means you're further than you think. The effort you've put in isn't wasted, it's working. Each step, no matter how small, has brought you closer to your goal. Even if you can't see it yet, you're building something powerful. So keep going. Celebrate the effort, because if you refuse to quit, no matter how slow you're moving, you're already winning. 6. Mistakes are lessons. Keep learning. Most people believe mistakes are signs of failure, proof that they aren't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. But that belief is what keeps them stuck. Mistakes aren't proof you're losing. They're proof you're trying. And more importantly, they're powerful teachers if you know how to use them. There's a reason why the Stoics didn't fear failure. They understood that mistakes aren't setbacks, they're stepping stones. Every error, misstep, or bad decision holds something valuable. Knowledge, experience, or insight that you wouldn't gain any other way. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." What people forget is that behind every breakthrough, there's a long trail of failed attempts. What separates those who win from those who quit isn't talent. It's the ability to see mistakes as part of the process. The Stoics believed that no experience, no matter how painful, is wasted if you learn from it. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave before becoming one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, often reminded his students that failure itself isn't the enemy. Avoiding responsibility is. He believed that real growth happens when you ask, "What can I learn from this?" instead of, "Why did this happen to me?" Mistakes are uncomfortable. They bruise your ego and shake your confidence. But that discomfort is exactly what makes them valuable. Mistakes expose your weaknesses. They reveal the gaps in your thinking, your skills, or your preparation. And once you know those gaps exist, you can fix them. That's the power of failure. It reveals what you need to strengthen. Every mistake is feedback, a signal telling you what didn't work and what needs to change. Most people ignore those signals. They avoid responsibility, blame others, or pretend the mistake never happened. But the Stoics believe that facing your mistakes, owning them, is what makes you stronger. Marcus Aurelius called it turning obstacles into fuel. Whatever went wrong, whatever hurt you, embarrassed you, or frustrated you, can be transformed into wisdom if you're willing to confront it. But that requires humility, the willingness to admit you were wrong without letting shame control you. The Stoics knew that pride is what blinds people to their own growth. When you let pride win, you miss the lesson. When you let ego take over, you walk away from the very knowledge that could have made you stronger. Mistakes are uncomfortable, but they're also your greatest advantage. Each one reveals something you didn't know before, about yourself, your mindset, or your abilities. Each mistake adds another layer of wisdom, another piece of experience that shapes you into someone sharper, wiser, and stronger. But that only happens if you choose to keep going. Too many people quit after they fail once. They convince themselves they're not capable, not talented enough, or that the goal isn't worth it. They don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they stop learning. The Stoics knew that failure isn't final. It's a signal to adjust. A wrong turn doesn't mean you're lost. It means you need to find a better path. A mistake doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're learning how to improve. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal is heated, hammered, and shaped repeatedly. Each strike isn't just about building strength, it's about correcting weaknesses. Each imperfection the blacksmith finds is an opportunity to refine the blade. Without those mistakes, the sword stays weak. But with each correction, it becomes stronger, sharper, and more powerful. You are no different. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to refine your character. Each setback is a chance to sharpen your mind and improve your judgment. Mistakes, when faced honestly, become the very thing that strengthens you. But only if you refuse to quit. The real failure isn't in making mistakes, it's in refusing to learn from them. The Stoics believed that true wisdom comes from the willingness to face your flaws, to dissect what went wrong and use that knowledge to improve. That's what separates those who grow from those who repeat the same mistakes over and over. If you're feeling frustrated right now, if you've made choices you regret, you haven't failed. You've just uncovered an opportunity to learn. The question isn't whether you've stumbled, it's whether you'll rise with more clarity than before. Winning isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every mistake you've made is proof that you're in motion. that you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. Mistakes don't mean you're losing, they mean you're learning. So don't run from your mistakes. Study them, break them down. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? Then move forward with that wisdom in your pocket, because the person who learns from failure is far stronger than the person who never tried at all. If you're still learning, you're still winning. 7. Patience builds strength. Stay committed. Winning isn't always fast. Some victories demand time. The kind of time that tests your patience, your discipline, and your faith in yourself. And that's why so many people quit. They assume that if success doesn't come quickly, it won't come at all. But the truth is, the strongest people aren't the ones who succeed overnight. They're the ones who know how to wait. They understand that patience isn't passive. It's powerful. It's the quiet decision to keep pushing forward, even when progress feels painfully slow. The Stoics believed that patience was a form of strength, a choice to endure, to persist, and to trust that every effort is shaping something greater. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The fruit grows even if you watch it or not." He understood that progress often happens out of sight, hidden beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. That's the hard part. Trusting the process when nothing seems to be changing. You wake up, put in the work, and see no results. You tell yourself it's pointless, that maybe you're wasting your time. But what you don't see is the momentum building beneath the surface. The small shifts, the quiet progress, the changes that are happening inside you. That's how strength is built. Not in bursts of instant success, but in the grind. The slow, steady pressure that forges resilience. A farmer knows this well. He doesn't dig up his crops each morning to check if they've grown. He plants the seed, nurtures the soil, and trusts that with time the harvest will come. Growth takes patience. The roots must spread before the plant can rise. But here's what makes patience so difficult. It requires faith. Faith that your work is making a difference. Faith that even when you feel stuck, you're still moving forward. And faith that no matter how long it takes, your effort will pay off. That's where most people fail. Not because they lack potential, but because they abandon the process too soon. They expect instant results, and when those results don't arrive fast enough, they give up. But the Stoics knew that patience isn't just about waiting, it's about waiting with purpose. Patience is what allows you to keep moving when doubt tells you to stop. It's what helps you hold your ground when fear whispers that you're wasting your time. Patience is what makes you stronger than you think. The greatest victories often come to those who are willing to outlast the struggle. Colonel Sanders spent years perfecting his fried chicken recipe before anyone cared. J.K. Rowling faced rejection after rejection before her book became a global sensation. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison, 27 years, yet refused to give up his fight for justice. These people weren't special because they never struggled. They were special because they refused to quit when success felt distant. They knew that what they were building couldn't be rushed. It had to be earned through time, effort, and persistence. The Stoics believed that the path to success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And the hardest part isn't the beginning, it's the middle. The part where doubt creeps in. The part where progress seems invisible. The part where you feel like giving up. That's where patience becomes your greatest weapon. It's what separates those who achieve from those who stop too soon. When you feel like quitting, when you're tired, frustrated, and questioning whether your effort is even worth it, that's when you need to hold on. Because that's the point where most people fail. And that's exactly why you must push through. Patience doesn't just build success, it builds you. It sharpens your discipline, strengthens your mind, and teaches you how to endure. Every time you resist the urge to quit, every time you stay committed even when it's hard, you're building something powerful inside yourself. If you're still trying, still showing up, still putting in the effort, you're stronger than you think. You're proving to yourself that you won't break, that you won't surrender just because the results aren't immediate. Success isn't about being faster, smarter, or luckier than everyone else. It's about being the one who refuses to stop. The one who stays committed long after others have walked away. The Stoics knew this, and they knew that patience isn't weakness. It's power. The kind of power that turns setbacks into stepping stones and doubts into fuel. If you've made it this far, if you're still fighting, still working, still believing, you're winning. Even if the results aren't obvious yet, even if the progress feels painfully slow, you're building strength, you're developing resilience, and you're moving closer, step by step, to the victory you deserve. So trust the process, stay the course, and never forget, patience isn't just about waiting, it's about winning the battle that most people surrender to. 8. Every breath is progress. Just show up. Some days, even breathing feels hard. You wake up feeling drained, unmotivated, and unsure if you have the strength to push through. Those are the moments when your mind whispers, "Today doesn't count, just skip it." But that's exactly when showing up matters most. Winning isn't always about doing your best. Sometimes it's simply refusing to quit. Even when your energy is gone, even when progress feels distant, even when you're overwhelmed with doubt, the simple act of showing up is a victory in itself. The Stoics believe that persistence, the choice to keep going no matter what, is what separates those who succeed from those who fail. Not because the strong never get tired, but because they refuse to surrender to exhaustion. They knew that on the hardest days, your greatest strength comes from your ability to stay in motion, even if that movement is barely visible. Marcus Aurelius faced relentless pressure as emperor, war, betrayal, and a deadly plague that devastated Rome. But no matter how chaotic his world became, he never let despair break him. Instead, he reminded himself daily, if it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. That's the power of showing up. It's about silencing the excuses, pushing past the urge to quit, and reminding yourself that no matter how heavy life feels, you can still move forward. There's a reason why some of the strongest minds in history swore by this philosophy. They understood that showing up, especially when you don't feel ready, is what builds resilience. Every time you face discomfort and refuse to run from it, you're training your mind to stay calm under pressure. When you do this often enough, something powerful happens. You stop waiting to feel ready. Instead, you learn to act despite your doubt. You develop an inner strength that doesn't rely on motivation or ideal conditions. It thrives on discipline, and that's what most people never understand. They believe they need inspiration to begin, but inspiration doesn't come first. Action does. The decision to show up, to keep moving, is what sparks momentum. The Stoics believe that every breath you take is proof you're still capable of action. As long as you're breathing, you have the power to try, to improve, to push forward. Even if that effort feels small, even if all you can manage today is a single step, that step still matters. The hardest part of any journey isn't finishing. It's starting when you don't feel strong enough. But here's what you need to know. You don't have to feel ready to move forward. You just have to start. Even on your worst days, when you feel broken, defeated, or empty, progress is still possible. Because progress isn't always about speed. It's about direction. Moving slowly is better than standing still. A small effort is better than no effort at all. That's why the Stoics believed in the power of presence, the ability to show up no matter what. They knew that if you keep showing up again and again, success is inevitable. Not because you're perfect, but because you refuse to give up when it was easier to quit. There will be days when your energy runs low, when self-doubt tries to convince you that your effort isn't worth it. But that's when you must remind yourself, just showing up is proof you're winning. You don't have to break records today. You don't have to impress anyone. You just have to refuse to stop. If you can push through those difficult moments, if you can keep moving even when you're unsure, you'll unlock a strength most people never find. Because winning isn't about perfect conditions. It's about resilience. The Stoics believed that motion itself was the cure for fear, doubt, and anxiety. The moment you act, the moment you push forward despite your uncertainty, you shift your mind out of hesitation and into momentum. And momentum, no matter how small, is unstoppable once it begins. So when the doubt creeps in, when you feel overwhelmed or unprepared, don't waste time searching for motivation. Just show up. Even if you don't know what to say, speak anyway. Even if you don't know what step to take, move anyway. Even if you're certain you'll fail, try anyway. Because the simple act of trying, of choosing action over hesitation, is what separates those who win from those who wait. You may not see the results right away. It may feel like you're barely moving. But every time you show up, every time you push forward despite the resistance, you're building strength. You're proving that you won't break. You're showing yourself that no matter how hard things get, you're still here, still breathing, still fighting. And that's what matters most. If you're breathing, you're still capable of change. If you're breathing, you're still in the fight. If you're breathing, you're still winning. Winning isn't about luck. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or hoping for ideal conditions. Winning is a decision, a choice you make every single day. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that success isn't built overnight. It's shaped through small steps, quiet efforts, and steady resilience. Age doesn't limit your potential. Your mindset does. Progress isn't always visible, but it's happening every time you choose to keep going. Mistakes aren't failures, they're lessons in disguise. And patience? That's not weakness, it's strength in its purest form. Most importantly, winning doesn't require grand victories. It starts with presence. The simple act of showing up, of refusing to quit, is often the most powerful move you can make. Every breath you take is proof that progress is still possible. So how do you apply this? Start by choosing one thing, one small action, and commit to it. Whether it's improving your focus, controlling your emotions, or building your resilience, practice it every day. Don't wait for motivation, act now. Don't worry about how fast you're moving, just refuse to stop. The Stoics believed that wisdom isn't something you know, it's something you practice. So take what you've learned and put it to work. Choose to embrace the struggle. Choose to trust the process. Choose to move forward, even when it's hard. And if you've faced moments where you wanted to quit, share your story below. Let others know how you kept going, how you found strength, and how you proved to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. Because every time you refuse to give up, you're already winning.